Today, we're going to unpack a time when an AI system went spectacularly wrong. This isn't some far-off science fiction scenario. This is a real-world story with some pretty huge lessons for anyone interested in tech, policy, and how we make big decisions. So let's dive in.
It sounds like a question from a movie, doesn't it? We're all used to algorithms helping us pick what to watch next or finding the fastest way to get to work. But what if an algorithm was in charge of something much, much bigger? What if it held the keys to your university admission, your career, your entire future?
Well, for thousands of students across the UK, that's exactly what happened. And the result wasn't just some technical glitch. It blew up into a full-blown national crisis. This serves as a massive warning about what happens when we use AI without really thinking through the real-world human consequences.
So you have to be asking, how on earth did we get here? Well, believe it or not, this whole thing started with a promise. A promise to create a fair and standard system during a time of incredible disruption.
Just think back to 2020 for a second. The entire global education system was thrown into chaos. Schools were closed, exams were canceled, so the UK government had this enormous problem. How do you award final grades to students? The stakes could not have been higher.
So they turned to an algorithm, and, on paper, the goals seemed pretty reasonable. They wanted to standardize grades, keep them consistent with previous years, and stop grade inflation so the qualifications would still mean something. It was supposed to be the fairest way to do it.
So how did this thing work? Well, it looked at three key pieces of information: the historical performance of a student's school, a bunch of different statistical models, and a ranking of students provided by their teachers. The idea was to mash all this data together to produce a reliable, unbiased grade. But hidden deep inside that logic was a fundamental, and as it turns out, disastrous problem. A fatal flaw, one that would take a system that was built with good intentions and turn it into a source of massive public outrage, destroying the very trust it was meant to create. Now, to really get what went wrong, we have to understand this key idea, a proxy variable. It sounds technical, but it's pretty simple. It's when you can't measure something directly, like, say, a student's potential, so you use something else you can measure as a stand-in, or a proxy. And in this case, the algorithm used a student's school as a proxy for their own individual ability. And that's where everything started to fall apart. This shows the disconnect perfectly. On one side, you've got what teachers see, right? Individual ability, personal efforts, a student's actual improvement over time. But on the other side, what did the algorithm see? A school's past performance, a bunch of statistical averages, and historical group data. The actual individual student was completely lost in the calculation. So here's the bottom line. The system wasn't actually grading the student. It was grading the school and then just assigning that grade to the student. So if you were a brilliant kid at a school that had historically underperformed, you were more likely to be downgraded, no matter how talented or hardworking you were. Your individuality was just erased by an average. And this huge, central mistake was made even worse by other failures in the system. The decisions were based on these flawed proxies. The whole process itself was a total black box with zero transparency. There was no way for a human being to step in and override a result that was obviously unfair, and it completely ignored the unique context of each student. It was really a perfect storm of problems.
So the moment the results were released, all of those theoretical flaws became a very real and a very public crisis. The consequences were immediate, and they were severe.
Students and their parents took to the streets to protest. The political pressure on the government became absolutely immense. And maybe the most damaging thing of all was a complete and total loss of trust in the very system that was designed to ensure fairness. The backlash was so overwhelming that the government really had no choice. The entire algorithmic system was scrapped, just thrown out. In a dramatic U-turn, they announced that all grades would be based on the assessments from teachers, the very same human judgment the algorithm was supposed to improve upon.
So, what can we all learn from this massive failure? Because this isn't just a story about a bad algorithm. It's a critical lesson for our growing reliance on automated systems for these kinds of high-stakes decisions.
This quote really gets to the heart of the issue. Efficiency cannot come at the cost of fairness. The push for an efficient, standardized solution completely overshadowed the fundamental need to be fair to each individual. And when the stakes are this high, efficiency can never, ever be the most important goal. So what does this mean for the future of AI in the public sector?
Well, this crisis makes three things crystal clear. First, trust is everything. Without it, the system is dead on arrival. Second, you have to have transparency. People need to understand how decisions are being made. And finally, you need robust governance. You need systems in place to catch and fix errors before they affect people's lives.
And this is the ultimate takeaway. It's so tempting to blame the code or the data, but the technology wasn't the real problem here. The algorithm failed because the human strategy behind it prioritized statistical neatness over individual lives. And in any system that's designed to serve the public, is there anything more important to remember than that?